Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Michigan State Police Lansing Forensic Science Laboratory. I'm Colonel Christy Kibiechu, and I just want to say thank you for joining us here today. The signing of this new Sexual Assault Kit Evidence Submission Act is the culmination of a lot of work together, and it's quite a partnership we have on this piece of legislation. It's good policy, and it's an important first step as we look at sexual assault in the state of Michigan.
What does this legislation specifically do? It really sets important timelines and guidelines to make sure matters are handled in a very sensitive situation in a very timely fashion. So that's where it's important. It sets guidelines to medical facilities and medical providers about how quickly they have to notify law enforcement. It sets guidelines, 14 days for law enforcement to pick up the kits. It sets guidelines for law enforcement to get those kits to a lab, either the Michigan State Police or comparable facilities. And it sets guidelines for the Michigan State Police to process the evidence in a timely fashion and then enter the data into a database. Again, much of this goes back to the very unfortunate circumstance, the terrible circumstance of Detroit having essentially 11,000 kits that weren't processed in a timely fashion. That issue is being addressed. Just to be proactive on that is we're continuing the process of getting all those kits tested thanks to work and announcements we made earlier about providing financial resources. The Michigan State Police is working with some private providers to get caught up on those kits by next May. But in the meantime, this sends a strong message to say that shouldn't happen. And that's what this legislation is really all about being proactive to set guidelines to say in these situations, let's move promptly, let's get evidence tested, and let's hopefully go after effective prosecutions where law has been broken and people have been violated.
This is a DNA evidence box. You can call it a rape kit, you can call it a sexual assault kit, whatever you want to call it. This is a DNA evidence box that contains DNA and evidence from a horrific crime of rape and sexual assault. But it's not just a number, and it's not a statistic. Each one of these boxes represents a woman who's been victimized. And what we can't do is have a woman be violated twice. First by a horrific crime, and then that this would sit on a shelf, never be examined. The creeps would go, and these thugs would go unpunished, not convicted, and maybe strike again. But not anymore. Not on our collective watch. That won't happen again. Speeding, yeah, it's against the law. But by signing this bill today, the governor is requiring speeding. We would have a speedy, prompt examination of DNA evidence kits so there can be right justice for women across this state who've been victimized by rape. And remember, what is this all about? It's try to get matching hits on the National Rape Registry list. So that's really what we're attempting to do and will do today.
We all value the importance of giving victims a voice in what happened to them and giving them the opportunity for justice. Sexual assault is a terrifying, life-altering, and traumatic crime. For those victims who've asked that their sexual assault kit be tested for DNA, this act ensures that that will in fact happen. And I can't emphasize enough how much that matters, both to each of the victims that will come forward with these kits and ask that they be tested, but also symbolically to victims who may be hesitant to come forward and talk about this heinous crime. And for those victims to know that every effort is then being made based on that DNA to track down justice and the sexual predator who committed this crime against them is a powerful tool in the process of how victims will heal going forward. This is a really powerful message to sexual assault victims in Michigan from everybody who's here today and many others in letting victims know that they matter and that they're not alone. I do hope that those of you who haven't had a chance to read the silhouettes will do that. For some of us who have worked on this project, those cases became very real to us as we read their files and watched their progress in going through the criminal justice system. And again, as the Attorney General said, every one of those kits, every one of these silhouettes represent a real human being, a daughter, a wife, a mother, somebody who had a terrifically awful experience, and now what they know is that the state of Michigan counts them as being important, and we will in fact be proceeding to test their kits.
There we go. Thank you for your hard work.